Welcome to this episode of the Gunman. So this video here, I've decided to do a bit of a tribute video on the DeVilbiss GTI range. This is the evolution of the GTI in my personal career. So this first gun here I'm giving you guys a look at, that was the first gun I ever bought. I bought that back in the year 2000, a couple of months after I started my apprenticeship. Second gun here, this was my first DeVilbiss GTI Pro, and I bought that back in the year 2010 with the T2 air cap on it. Served me well ever since, and I got this gun this year being 2014, and that's the DeVilbiss GTI Pro Lite, and I prefer to use the TE20 air cap with that. I've also got the TE10 and the HV30 cap, but prefer to use the TE20. So I'm going to be using each separate gun on this job. I'm going to be starting off by using the DeVilbiss GTI with the 110 air cap. The car's a XKR Jaguar, fairly late model. I'd say it'd be around 2010. And the colour is called Liquid Silver 2029, or MEE is the paint code. But anyway, I'm mainly going to be focusing on the guns itself and my personal opinion on these guns. This gun here has served me well for a very long time. Ever since I got the GTI Pro, I sort of never really looked back, and this gun just sort of got put on the shelf. It actually for a long time got used just as a 1K primer gun and an etch primer gun. I never really thought I would have been using it for colour. If you had told me a couple of years ago I'd be laying colour down on a really late model Jaguar, I probably would have laughed at you. But I decided just to give it a clean out, and just for the sake of making a couple of videos since I've been doing the Gunman. And I was extremely surprised at how well it went. It went a lot better than what I remembered it to be. Because as I said, as soon as I just got the GTI Pro, I sort of never looked back, and my memory of the gun was, it had a small fan and it wasn't as good as the GTI Pro, but it's actually an awesome gun. And as soon as I started using it again, it reminded me of actually how good they really were. Bit of a different setup to the GTI Pro, because I'm using the 110 air cap. If you look, I do show you guys a good look at this gun, so that's well and truly under 20 PSI there. That's around the 1 bar, sort of 18 PSI type thing I'm using for base coat, and there's no need to go any higher than that. If I was using it for clear, I might jump it up a touch, maybe to 20, maximum 22. I'd never go higher than 22 with that gun. The GTI Pro with the T2 air cap, another gun that has served me extremely well for years. It is thankful for many great finishes and many good paint jobs out there that I've been able to replicate perfect peel with these things. And this gun's not going to be featuring a big part in this video. It's just going to be for the blending clear. So that's what I'm using here. I'm being careful not to take that blending clear right up to the edge of the bonnet. It's just to help aid the blend. So on the GTI Pro, I'm using a 1.3mm fluid needle and tip. Also use 1.3 on the Pro Lite. Whereas on this GTI here, I usually like to use the 1.4mm, and all the GTIs that I always had 1.4mm. Reason being, the size of the actual air cap itself is a lot smaller, so to compensate for the amount of air that comes out of the gun, they had a larger fluid needle size. Yet that doesn't mean much on the way of paint consumption. I've found they're actually quite similar. I wouldn't say you go through much less or more with either gun, to be honest. I think it just comes down to the user and how you use that gun. So I'll give you guys a quick run through the weights of the guns. I whack them all onto the scales. This gun here, the GTI, these weights are all including the regulators that you see on the bottom of the guns. So they may be a little bit lighter if you don't run regulators. The GTI here is 911 grams. The GTI Pro is 948 grams, so a little bit heavier for that one. And the Pro Lite obviously the lightest, at 773 grams, which it really is noticeably different. I'll give you guys another look at the guns at the very end after we've checked the whole car out. And yeah, when I was doing that, picking them up, it really was a noticeable difference. And when you're doing a respray or a roof or something like that, it actually does make a difference when you're painting. So next up, using the GTI Pro Lite with the T20 air cap on it. Give you guys a quick run through the settings for a job like this. So I'd have the air pressure gauge set to 25 psi, which is about 1.5 to 1.7 bar. I'd wind that fluid for an orange peel like this, which is really quite a thick peel. It's nice and wet finish on it. I'd wind the fluid right in and come out around 3.5 turns. Depending on the heat too, if it's really hot, you might want to come out say 4, even 4.5, probably maximum. And you keep the fan fully wide open. So all three of these spray guns, just about every application, unless you're doing something like wheels or some tricky interior angles, I just like to keep all three fans wound right out, so at full capacity. The spray fan on the Pro Lite is actually a lot bigger than the other two guns. It's quite bigger than the GTI especially, but just a touch bigger than the GTI Pro as well. So these days the game has changed a lot compared to when I actually started and was using the original GTIs. Once I started using that, it really reminded me of back in the days when I was just starting out spray painting. So I thought in this video I might share just a couple of my experiences in the trade. So back in those days when I was just starting out, I used to always, basically every morning, I'd go in to the second booth in the next workshop. We had two workshops, one was paint and one was panel, but in the panel shop we had another spray booth down the back end. My job was just get all the insides of all the panels painted up. So I'd mix up a couple of 100 mils and paint inside the bonnets, paint inside the boot lids and inside the fender edges and the guards and stuff like that, and edge up all the panels. And it was good because it familiarised you with how to use the paint, how to mix the paint up, how it's going to react, and just applications and stuff like that. Whereas the young guys these days, they're sort of they're thrown straight onto painting exteriors, and it can be a bit more difficult because they're learning on exterior panels, whereas I was always learning on interior panels, and it's sort of, yeah, as I say, it familiarises you with how paint's going to react, you know. Just a little stuff like if you're painting it black, if you're doing a really dark colour, and you see a couple of sanding scratches in there, if they're just fine, you can clear over them, and the clear's going to fill it up, whereas a silver, you're gonna see everything once you clear over it. Even little stuff like back in those days, we didn't even run regulators on our guns. You see the regulator I've got on the bottom of the gun there. The tradesmen that I was working under never used them, so I never used them. I didn't know otherwise, and you just have to learn to paint by feel and by looking at what you're doing. Just get your eye in the reflection and see how the paint's going on. Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love this trade, always have done. I'm a third generation spray painter panel beater. My grandpa and my uncle were both spray painter panel beaters, and yeah, as you guys can tell, I'm sure it comes through in my videos, I've definitely got a passion for this job. Yeah, another thing I'd like to mention is even just stuff like working with all the different guys that you work with. There's a lot of great tradesmen here in Australia that know a hell of a lot of good tricks, and I did my apprenticeship in Melbourne and worked there for 12 years. I'm now over here in Perth. To be honest, I think that the tradesmen in Melbourne are a hell of a lot better. Maybe it's just partly to do with the big city, I don't know. But over here in WA, there's a big mining industry, and I think a lot of the guys sort of move out of this trade to go into the mines where they can chase big salaries, which is partly why the panel shops are empty and we find it hard to find good painters here in Perth. But yeah, anyway, back to the job. So that's our second coat of clear just about finished off there. I use the Standox standard clear on this job, which is a good quality clear. I use it at a 4:1 ratio with the VOC 10/20 hardener. So yeah, hang around for a couple more minutes. As I said, we'll have another good look at these guns at the end. They're all three great guns, and that's one great finish on that car. I can tell you now. There was probably a maximum of 5 to 10 pieces of dust in it. We gave them a quick nib out. The orange peel was perfect, and the car went, and the customer was obviously very happy with it. And a job like that, you might say, oh, why did you blend into the fender? I blend into the fender all day, every day. I'd paint the whole side, because you're going to see a slight colour difference, even just with that one coat of clear. If you were to just paint that door, no matter what, I'd like to see the whole side painted. The colour blended out really nice. So this one here is prior to being polished, just out in the workshop, and out the front here when it's all finished off, polished up. Job done. So beautiful car, XKR Jaguar, and we've definitely done this car justice in the repair that we've done right here. Top quality repair by top quality repairer. So be sure to check me out on Facebook. There's a link to my Facebook page in the description of each one of my videos. Also hang around at the very end. I've got a couple of my personal favourite videos, a link to a couple of them. Also a link to check out my channel, my YouTube channel. Make sure you check that out, where I've got loads of different playlists, including prep work, paint work, colour matching, masking, and everything in between. So there's the car, and this is the final look at all three guns. Final thoughts are, each gun individually is awesome, but the next gun in the line is definitely a decent step up in technology and quality of the gun. When you buy one of these guns, you get a top quality spray gun, as you can see. And look, hope you guys have enjoyed watching this video as much as I've enjoyed making it. Yeah, thanks again for watching, and this has been another Gunman production. Goodbye.